Do good work is not a label, but a way of living. It is the constant and diligent effort to achieve a new level of excellence in one's own life. It is the hidden inner beauty behind the struggle to achieve excellence. It's not perfect, but imperfect. It is the effort, discipline, and focus that often goes unnoticed. The goal of Do Good Work is to highlight that drive. The guests I have on this show emulate this drive in their own special way. You'll be able to apply new ideas into your own life by learning from them. We will also have one-on-one episodes with me where we'll dive into my own experience with entrepreneurship and leadership. Every episode is designed to provide you with ideas that you can apply and grow in excellence in all areas of your life, business, and career. Today we have on the show Will Christensen. He's the co-founder of DataAutomation, which customizes both automation and integration of key processes for e-commerce sellers. He enjoys tinkering with cutting-edge technology, apps, and systems, and loves to create innovative solutions for businesses and individual clients. Will is on the mission to help you and his clients get back one of the most precious commodities, time, so that you can spend that time on innovative projects and with your family. Will, thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to chat automation. It's what I love.
So on that note with automation, so there's a few things that, going back to philosophy, it's always defining what is it and how do you actually interpret or communicate that to another person. So what is actually automation?
What is automation? It's funny that you ask the question that way. I look at automation as a way. So we started a podcast as well, and we call it Automate, Delegate, Eliminate. And so automation I see as a pathway to scaling. So when you come to that pivot moment where you have to decide when you're going to scale a company, you have to choose to either automate, delegate, or eliminate that process in order to make room for more processes, make room for more of what's there. So I see it as one of the three pathways to scale a business. And a lot of times what I tell people is automation is just delegation to a robot. So you're delegating to a system, or you're delegating to a series of ones and zeros to spit out your end result. And oftentimes I tell people to first delegate, then eliminate, because you need to kind of figure out what that looks like, and writing down the standard operating procedure helps with that. But I see automation as one of the three pathways to scaling a business. And it is the if I were to compare it to the delegation pathway, it would be giving it to a robot versus a human being.
Yeah, and I like that the fact that you mentioned, obviously you want to have more time for more things. Things are more important, but before you add more to a mess, it's good to remove and simplify from a big mess. And then first off, not your first intentions when you're automating a system or you're automating a task isn't to go directly to technology. It's first to see if I can remove it, see if someone else can do it, and then what kind of technology exists that I can leverage or build. On the build side or leverage side, what are some of the ways that you've helped your clients really think about automation and how to actually take tangible steps towards that?
So in terms of when you're looking at building out something automation-wise, you've got to look at it and break it down. So I had a new salesperson that joined the DataAutomation team several years ago, and they came to me and asked, okay, well, what questions should I be asking to these people so that we can actually solve their automation problem? And I sat down, I was like, well, you ask them this question. I started with, okay, where's the data now? Ask them that first. And then I was like, and then we should ask them where's the data gonna go? And then I was like, and then we need to know what's happening to the data in between. So I was like, okay, that's good. And so like we came up with these questions, and we started to finite that list. And so there are actually 4 questions that we ended up with. Where's the data now? Where does the data need to go? What needs to happen to the data in between? And what triggers the process to start? So if you're posting on Upwork, you're posting on Fiverr, you're going to FreeUp, you're going wherever to find someone to automate this for you, or you're going to dataautomation.com and checking us out, or anybody, if you answer these three questions: where's the data now? Where does it need to go? What needs to happen to it in between? And then that fourth question of how often is this happening? You send that over to them. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a better response than if you gave them a paragraphed version
of what you need
the
done.
problem was.
Yeah.
Because when you're paragraphing, you're telling a story, and you often will forget the end of the story or the beginning of the story, or maybe the middle, because for you, you're telling about your emotions. Oh, it's awful, and I hate having to go back and forth between these, and it doesn't force you to think about it in terms of origin, destination, and the way in between.
And the connection. When you map that out, let's say we have the origin, destination, what's happening, and the habits behind it, how frequent, what times, etc.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able, or what do you see works best when you're able to marry that to existing workflows, existing technology, or even creating technology from scratch?
So when I can clearly define, and I love, there's a platform called Miro, which is basically like a whiteboard, but it's all real time, and you can put cards up there and connect them all, so you can have an entire team editing it in real time. Think Google Docs, but it's not structured in a document. Everybody can edit it in real time.
Like a whiteboard. It's like, yeah,
they used to be called real-time board. I'll be honest, if the founder of that company's listening, I don't know why you changed your name, other than it's a 4-letter domain and everybody's got to have one of those. But real-time board was a much better description of what they were doing. I love that tool for this specific process of, okay, now I need to figure this out. The first time I saw it, I saw a very complex, it looked like a spiderweb tree coming down. It was showing like the orders originate in Amazon, eBay, and Walmart, and then they flow down to this order management system. And then and I was like, stop. What tool are you using to show me this? So what I would say to you is, if you're trying to invest in that technology phase, just like when you're building a house, you've got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't have anything. And this is a situation where you can overplan, but you are more likely to underplan than overplan. So get a plan in place. Map out the destination, map out the origin, map out what happened to it in between. And if you start looking at point A and point B, and you're like, okay, well, this starts out as a CSV and ends up as this really sexy PDF, well, obviously something's happening to it in between, because CSVs don't magically turn into PDFs.
Correct.
So what did you do? Oh, that's right. I put Excel in there, and okay, now that might turn into a PDF, but what else did you do, right? So it helps you look at that pie and remember, oh, I started out with flour and butter and sugar, and I ended up with this. Oh, and in between I had to mix that sucker. So it really helps you understand what the recipe is. So very important to understand that. And then you can start to apply those technology levels to start to see what's functioning and where to go, and what now that you have a recipe, what tools should I use? Should I use the the egg beater or the hand mixer? Should I use that's the technology layer for me, is what tools are you going to use to now execute on your recipe?
Yeah, and I think something that I find as well, I'm sure you're familiar with it with your clients, is clients or people are just stuck on specific tools, or they're worried about specific, hey, should I use this tool or that tool, without looking at the bigger picture of, this is the recipe, this is the overview. And one of the key things as well that I like to, that I talk to, and I'm glad that you brought it up in the book Productive Profits, is even just a simple tool like a sticky note, like mapping out the entire process beginning to end and being able to identify what are the key points that you can either hand off to someone else or leverage technology. But let's get a little bit techie now. Let's go a little bit deeper into the actual tools of the trade. Like when it comes to some of the workflows that you've solved for clients and companies, what's the area of the business that you would say 9 out of 10 times businesses need more of to delegate?
I would say that there are 2 places that come to mind immediately as you mentioned that. One of them is customer service, and the other is inbound leads or inbound communication. And when I say inbound communication, and so let me give you some specific use cases. When someone comes, here's a pretty common, I see a lot of businesses where, the leads come in and they can always be dispositioned better, right? Like I can find out more data about what that individual did on the website to find out what their true interests are, and then either create an autoresponder. The autoresponders of the world you can actually be much more sophisticated than you used to be. So if you check out DataAutomation.com, you go to /contact, you type in the information. We actually automated our intake process, and we did it out of desperation, not out of like, oh, we wanted to be sexy and cool about automation. At the time, as data automation was hitting one of its growth curves, I was totally buried in leads, in people that just couldn't pay us enough money to really justify my time to be on these calls. And so we were trying to figure out a way that some of these calls could go to my assistant and some of these calls could go to me. And we basically created a Google form where if you said like how many hours a week this would save you, and if you said less than 10 hours, you went to her Calendly link. If you said more than 10 hours, you went to my Calendly link, right? And so we created a way to disposition the lead before they ever came into the inbox. And it was out of sheer just, we needed to be able to help these people, but we couldn't do it. We couldn't help everyone. And so I would say lead inbound. And so we actually created some automated responses and put them into the CRM the appropriate way and moved that around. Information being inputted by another human being that comes into you like that, a lead, is often a place where there's opportunity for automation, either to augment the data around what's there, to disposition it to the right person, just to speed up that process of communication between you and that new lead.
I couldn't agree more specifically for that. And some things that I would like to add to that is also making sure that you're keeping your brand and integrity from the customer communication or interaction side, because that's a customer journey touch point for you, depending on how they interact. And you mean, it's awesome that you did that out of necessity with too many people coming in, right? But another key thing as well, and this could be even if you don't have that many leads coming in, but you do have a nice stable number, is follow-up. I think follow-up is the number one thing that a lot of businesses need to implement or do correctly, because I can't tell you how many times that I haven't been followed up and I would have been a prime candidate for a specific product or service. Same thing with your business, and having technology to at least help you in the follow-up stages, even if you do want to be more personal, at least helping you with 8 out of the 10 tasks that you need to do.
Well, so when you're talking follow-up, one company, they said, you know what I want you to do is I want you to actually drop a draft into my Gmail inbox and send me a Slack message letting me know that that draft is ready for me to go edit. So that was how they preserved the integrity in the customer journey and made it so it was still custom. But there was probably 2 to 3/4 of that email that was totally, you could reuse all of the content that was there. Every single time. And so we could just populate the drafts and let them know in Slack, hey, there's another message you need to go send to that client. So just because you don't want to be a robot and get it out there doesn't mean that you can't use automation to take it right up to that step of, all I do every day at 10 a.m. is I go check my drafts folder and I just hit send. And I personalize the message that I send to each one of those people, and Zapier or whatever else you're using populates drafts for you. So follow-ups, one thing I want to say on follow-ups, if you are not using text messaging to follow up with your clients, you're missing a really important piece of the puzzle. Text messaging is becoming more and more a key part of our messaging process, and done correctly, text messaging I've found can be more effective than a lot of other follow-up tools, because email gets lost so easily. So using something like Twilio to set up that drip campaign where they fill out that lead form and it shoots them a text message that says, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. Saw that you left saw that you shot a message in. Here's a link to my calendar in case you want to book it right now. I'm gonna go read your email and I'll get back to you in a few minutes. Like that ability to like drop those subtle hints of where it is, I've seen some really cool stuff done with text messaging.
And I couldn't agree more too as well with like most of the messages that we send, especially on the sales and marketing side, are almost going to be templates, but you do have to customize it to situations and people. So having, like we mentioned here, automation to not be a robot, but at least help you have a step up and get to either more volume or focus more on the quality side of the relationship, as opposed to just burning out different messages and just sending them one after the other.
So let's talk customer service, because that was the other side of the business that I was telling you. Like, I see a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
There's two places. One, a quick check-in on the whole process. So there's a company called Philly Personal Training, who is a client of ours. They pay us on a monthly basis. We're on an automation retainer, so they're constantly looking at automating new pieces of their gym.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we came up with on our last call was he was going out and he was shooting people a text message after they had their first session with a personal trainer and saying, "Hey, how was it? This is the owner. I'm looking to just get feedback. Want to make sure everything looked good." Kind of like when the restaurant manager stops by your table and says, "Hey, how was everything? Everything tasty?" That kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of a check-in. And he was getting such positive responses from that. He was like, "Oh, how can I do this more?" And so we set up a trigger so that on the 10th session that the person buys, they get another one of those. And on the 40th, they get another one of those. On the 100th, they get another one of those. So he's now created these touch points where he's checking in to get that net promoter score, right? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how well did we do? And would you recommend us to a friend, right? So automating that process of creating that feedback loop in your customer service is huge. Just really, really important. I got another tip, but I'll let you comment on that.
No, I just really do appreciate that. When it comes to customer service, a lot of people are focusing on sales, new business, but customer retention is probably the name of every business. Like you and I are in the business of keeping customers and having those customers multiply customers. And like when you hear that, you're like, well, that's different. I thought I was in the business of selling widgets, doing these services. Like, well, yes, but not really. It's to get in order to retain a client and have that client bring you more clients.
Well, even if you're an e-commerce company, you find that the e-commerce companies are constantly battling with Amazon and all of the others to figure out how to get a hold of that customer's contact information. And Amazon's constantly trying to stop them from getting that. I mean, there's this constant battle of how do I build a real relationship? I mean, I think about like the case that I have for my phone. At first, I was just going on Amazon and I was finding whatever case was there. But after about the 10th case that I bought, I started to pay attention to which cases that I really love. And so when I go back to Amazon, I'm going to look for that brand, right? So I'm looking for that relationship because they worked for me before, they worked for me again. I don't want to have to hunt down and look at all the reviews again. I just want to buy a case that works, right? So it really is about building that long-term relationship. So on the note of relationship building, one of the main things that I see, another place in customer service that I see a huge hole, is customer inquiries about problems. So at DataAutomation, we had this issue where people were coming to us and they're saying, "Hey, I got a bug. I got a situation where, this happened." And they would narrate to me what it was. And they would paragraph, just like, where's the data now? Where did it need to go? All of those. They would narrate to me. And I was like, this is driving me nuts, because I'd get all of this emotion, but they wouldn't answer the key things that I needed to know to go in and fix the bug. And then it dawned on me, well, dummy, you didn't tell them what you needed to know, so how could they tell you? And I was like, that sounds like a form. So we created a form, a no-nonsense form, no fluffy, weird, like please give me information I don't actually need. We said, okay, what did you expect to happen? What did happen? And how does my development team recreate this issue so we can fix it for you faster? And when we took those 3 questions and nailed it down, people were annoyed at first that they had to fill out a form. They felt like it was impersonal. But when our productivity rate inside our systems and our team got so much faster at squashing those bugs, they were like, give me another form to fill out. This is awesome. and we connected. Guess what? It was a Google form. all connected inside of our G Suite. We did a Google form. We pushed that into a Trello card, and then we tracked that system. And then they were like, well, I want to see where my Trello card is. And I was like, well, all of my client stuff is in those Trello cards. And I was like, wait a minute. So I actually created an Airtable that sits on top of my Trello card, and I gave individual people views. So I built basically what Zendesk does, where you can like check the ticket status and everything like that. I built all of that using Trello and Airtable sitting on top, and I synced the statuses for Trello, and I made it so that inside Airtable you could only see the statuses you wanted. But that simple process of, instead of it being an open-ended contact us or just email us if there's a support ticket issue, because I created a system or a way for me to ask all the right questions ahead of time, those customers got so much happier about giving me the information I wanted when I could show them that that's how I could solve their problems faster.
And I love that. So let's break that down a little bit, because not just the way that it was set up, but the actual problems that it solved, as well as some of the principles that you took from that. Because you took the principle of intake information. What do I actually need to know to take an action? So the first principle is intake for our listeners there. The intake, what do I need to know? The second is transparency and accountability. What are you doing to solve my problem? And transparency not only makes a customer happy because they're seeing that these things are actually being worked on, but second, it gives them a sense of control and stability to not worry about this in the back of their mind, not having that open loop or that open circle, continue to linger on. And the third, I love the fact that you use low cost tools to make that happen. And the fact that you don't have to, you can invest in the sophisticated software, but it's very simple to do. A form to, was it a Google Sheet or a Trello to an Airtable?
Google form to Google Sheet, and then Google Sheet to Trello. And then we took Trello and we surfaced it using, so if you're trying to do this later, you're trying to replicate the system. We then took that Trello card and pushed it into Airtable. And then we used they have a private view. This is part of free Airtable. So here's the disgusting part of this. You literally could build that entire ticketing system for free.
Oh, wow. Okay. Not the paid version of Airtable.
But besides, not even the paid version of Airtable. Free version of Airtable, you might, if you get more than, like if you're only getting 10 to 15 tickets, 10 to 15 tickets every month, you probably could even be on the free version of Zapier. So you could have a really sexy Zendesk-esque feel for everything there and have a lot more control over it, just using those different tools. Google Forms to Google Sheets, then Google Sheets to Trello, then Trello to Airtable, giving them a private view, a link where they can see their tickets. And the only thing that updates in those tickets inside Airtable is the status. So it shows them where it is in your internal pipeline. So you can expose one piece of data to that customer that is valid to them. All they want to know is, when does it go into work? When is it in review? When is it time for me to go check to see that you actually fixed the bug?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's, I think, a key thing too, because if you're building, for those who build websites, for those who manage clients, information, for those doing the services or products, interacting with clients will always be a thing, but having a streamlined, let's call it a communication flow of how that problem is solved, how they're seeing that problem is solved, will alleviate a lot of pains, but it'll also keep in retention. Like when you mentioned this earlier, and I want to dive into that around productivity, and you mentioned dashboards. So I'm really curious.
Before we go there, there's one more tip, because this is popping into my head. I'm thinking like, wait, if I went and told this to somebody who, let's say that they just build websites, right? They're like that, they're that guy, and they're like, well, all of my customers just contact me via text message. You can build an SMS bot to get these bugs. So you could say, oh, you know what? I actually hired a digital assistant and they handle all of the bugs. So if you see something that's broken on your website, text this number, you get my personal number, but if you text that number, it's going to be faster. And immediately, so they text bug to that phone number and it'll respond and say, what did you expect to happen? What did happen? How do you recreate it? And that can go right into whatever system you have to delegate it. If your method of communication isn't perhaps a form, you can still do it. SMS, messenger bots. mean, really, really powerful stuff. So we can talk dashboards now, but I had to mention, it doesn't just have to be a form on a website.
Yeah, and I want to translate that a little bit too, because when it comes to communications with clients, it's the same. Like I grew up in the marketing world, so maybe for those listening as well on the marketing piece, like when you communicate to the market, it's either your content, but on different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, right? Those are different communication channels. When you have a client, you also set the communication channel. And I know, when you say text message, that might raise up blood pressure for some people listening, is like, well, I don't want to give my clients my text or my personal cell, or I don't want to have to worry about checking all of this. But if you set your communication channels with your clients to be this project management tool, email, and then maybe SMS, but you set the specific parameters of what type of phone number they get and the support that they get through that, then you don't have to worry about that, because you always you'll be able to see from top bottom what's happening, who's talking to what things are being done, and it's not coming into full blown into your cell phone every single day or hour. So that's it's a key thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, we do that all the time, and we found that resetting expectations around which tool is going to be the most effective way to connect with me based upon what your issue is really powerful. So you can automate around text messages, you can automate around messenger or whatever other tools out there, and make it so that it works for the masses.
That's cool. That's key. So we can dive a little bit into dashboards, but when it comes to dashboards, I really want to look at what are some of the essential ones that you've seen your clients need, and that ones that you use internally.
So we hold our business accountable to 3 metrics, and I have no. These metrics, I coined the terms. If you know somebody else who's got them before, I'm curious to hear what it is. But we call it selling, sold, doing, done, cash collected. So we look at a dashboard every single week where we look at how much money DataAutomation has selling, sold, what did we sell, what did we do, and what do we collect cash on. And that's how we track and measure our business as far as KPIs go. And it's done in a very simple spreadsheet. So our business dashboard for how we're checking to everything funnels up into one of those 3 categories. And obviously there's lots of different ways to describe that, and lots of books out there that describe how to do that. But those are the 3 metrics we look at that way. And then you can pump that sort of data into like a Google Data Studio or the pivot tables that are already available inside Google Sheets, or any one of many hundreds of different tools to dashboard out.
To look at it differently. So that's more on the health and the pulse of the business, which is essential, because no health of the business, no health for clients. What are some of the ways that you look at the health and relationship retention churn of clients?
So when I look at the overall health of what's going on inside the business, we'll use a lot of different tools to build that. We're using a tool called Practice Ignition right now, which allows us to automate our entire sales process. So after the first sales call, which we do all of our sales calls inside our Miro boards where we map out exactly what it is they wanted. We hand that Miro board over to our developer. Developer takes notes, looks at things, gives time estimates, that kind of thing. When that goes back to the salesperson, they then use Practice Ignition to create a proposal, and the proposal can be signed and paid for upfront. And if it's not an upfront thing, we still require our clients to put in their payment information into Practice Ignition. So we capture either bank account information or a credit card number at the very beginning of our project. So the reason I mentioned that, and I mentioned dashboarding and kind of where that goes, how I track it all, is Practice Ignition gives me reports that show me, where's the customer in their journey, have they accepted the proposal, where does it go, and when it comes time for the proposal to be over, my project managers can go in and simply collect payment. So pretty powerful in terms of creating a lot less headache when it comes to accounts receivable.
That's key, and that's probably what a lot of people want to hear, right? Not chasing down accounts, not chasing down payments.
We solved that problem soundly by using Practice Ignition. Because think about it, when's the customer most likely to want to engage with you? Before they've hired you. Once they've hired you and you've given them what they want, oh yeah, I'll get to that, I'll pay you, yeah, you're just annoying at that point, right? They already have what they want. But if you can collect that payment information either via a bank account or a credit card before they get started, they're willing to jump through those hoops like crazy. And so, and they know they're going to pay you. Otherwise they wouldn't have engaged with you. And so it actually, we've had some people be like, well, I don't want to give my payment information up front. We're like, well, then we don't really want to work with you because we've already told you the way that this system works, I can capture that payment specifically associated with the signature associated with everything that's going on. So I'm not going to go charge you for something that I can't. Like Practice Ignition actually has some things in there that stop me from charging anybody for anything, right? Just because I have it in there doesn't mean I can just go
protection
charge anybody
both
for anything.
ways.
Yeah. So it's really powerful that way in terms of eliminating the need. It sounds like I should go sign up for their affiliate program now. But it's really powerful for eliminating the need around collecting. We had a real problem, probably a year and a half ago with our accounts receivable. Cash flow was just killing us. And Practice Ignition has eliminated that almost completely. One other thing I'll say for anybody who's having problems with recurring payments, we were doing the 50% up front, 50% at the end thing. And that's so common in the consulting world, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, send me 50% at the beginning, send me 50% at the end. And it was super frustrating. I looked at it a little deeper, and we discovered that if we said, okay, instead of doing 50% at the end and 50% at the beginning, because that last payment, that 50%, people would hold that over our head. It was the same problem we had with everything else. They were like, well, it's not really done. And it was like 99.99999% done. And they had to do their part in order for it to really be done. And they just would hold us hostage with that 50%. So what we did is we made it so that we either did 10% for 10 months or 20% for 5 months. And we told them, guess what? Because we're giving you this really nice payment plan where you don't have to pay me 50% up front, I get paid regardless of whether or not you think we're done.
Setting the terms up front.
It's just automatically going to come out of your bank account on the 15th of every month, and it's going to be 5 months, and it's going to be $2,000. And at the end of this, I'm going to get $10,000. You're going to be happy because you got what you were looking for. And that's about how long the project takes for us to get done. So we would just set up those terms ahead of time and not base them upon completion. That changed a lot for us as well.
And solves a lot of headaches too for the internal team. Like that's key. This last question that I really want to dive into kind of hits maybe 3 different questions. So, one stone, couple birds. So I'm really curious for you, what got you to be so passionate and into automation?
I tell my wife, well, she told me at one point, man, you really are one lazy bugger. Because I really enjoy that efficiency. I really enjoy eliminating the manual stuff. We were doing a project earlier where we've built a kind of a commission tracking system for our salespeople, and we were having to do something manually because some of the systems changed, and I was like, wait, I have an idea, and I figured out how to connect a couple of different Airtables together and make it so that the number that I had to go find and manually count to figure out whether or not the payment that I was seeing was commissionable, I figured out a way to surface that number so that I didn't have to go manually count it anymore. For me, there's no better way to automate something than to make me do it manually 3 or 4 times. I just look at it, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this, and then I'll go break it out and go at it a different way. So I've just always been passionate about making life easier.
And that's also kind of like the second prong question that you helped answer, is that when you make life quote unquote easier, or you remove some of the redundant tasks that you have to do, you're happier, you have more time, obviously, with the higher tier levels that you want to do in the business as well as outside the business. And it helps look at things from different perspectives. And I think obviously the biggest thing to understand is what is not possible and what is possible through automation, and being able to identify the stepping stones in order to integrate technologies or apps, or even creating new softwares to help you automate. But when it comes to all that and the next best action for our listeners to take, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? And thank you for this episode, Will.
Yeah, absolutely. You can catch us on our website. You can email me if you'd like, will@dataautomation.com, or you can obviously hit us up on that website. Check out that automation that we did through our contact us form, and you can kind of see, play with that, see what you like, what you don't like. Yeah, we're here to help you automate.
Awesome. Well, Will, thanks for being on, man.
Glad to be here.